We're going to talk about WellAI, how we use this app, and I'm going to show you the app. In WellAI, what we did was very similar, but we built a special model for medicine. We have our digital assistant that's in your smartphone that has read 30 million medical studies. What I alluded to, it literally read 30 million medical studies. And so based on those 30 million medical studies, it can now answer questions. It can now ask questions and answer questions. It can do a lot of things. We've actually shown it to some prominent doctors, and they told us that we tried to fool the algorithm, but it asked us follow-up questions and got it back on track. How is that possible? Well, it's possible because remember, this vast medical knowledge is laying out there. If you can use it efficiently, you can predict new things. In fact, we have an initiative based on our own model. Me and Sergey were presenting before scientific conference we're presenting, where we're going to propose this method that when you explore genome, when you explore these high dimensional problems, why don't you use mathematics of language to narrow down a problem? For example, let's say that we have a big problem, cancer, and we know that only a couple of genes are weakly related to a certain type of cancer. Well, why don't we use the model, just like these chemists did, but in a more sophisticated way, to find all these other related genes that are maybe far, far away in the genome? What about the RNA molecules? What about the proteins? What about all these other things? Find a cluster of things. So remember, systems biology, the future is in systems. In the past couple hundred years, people mostly dissected to the point where if you I went to a doctor a couple of years, my foot was hurting. He's like, it's a little bit above the line. I don't go there. I just treat over there. If it was just a little lower, I would help you. But, a couple of inches above, I can. So we dissected to the point where we're like highly specialized and we're like, losing forest behind the trees. Whereas I think what's needed is going back to kind of at least some holistic approach. And so what we did with WellAI is we created this model that can generate related concepts. Right? It's very loosely, the math is very, very elaborate. But for example, when you tell it what symptoms you have, it can first of all separate kind of the chit chat from the actual symptoms, but then it can say, okay, in the model, what diseases are related to those symptoms? What can we do with that? What other questions I want to ask to make it more precise?